Lance Reisland is here. He's continued to say he would start the quarterback that gives the Browns the best chance to win. Todd Monken made his decision. How does he feel about it? We'll talk about it coming up on the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Dog Pound? I'm Spencer German, your host of the Locked On Browns podcast. I'm proudly covering your Cleveland Browns each and every single day in the land and on the road right here at the Locked On Network and also over at Browns Roundtable. Today's episode is brought to you by KALSHI. For a limited time, download the KALSHI app, use code LOCKED ON to get $10 when you trade $10. So Lance Reisland is here. We got a lot to get to, including what we're watching for on Thursday night. We thought it might be the final dress rehearsal. As it turns out, it's just going to be a final preseason game for guys on the lower part of the roster competing for a spot in the 53. Speaking of that, we're going to get Dillon Gabriel and Taylen Green going against each other a little bit in that game to see maybe who the third quarterback that makes the roster is. But we start this conversation because Lance hasn't been on this show to share his thoughts. I'm sure he shared his thoughts other places on the quarterback decision made this week by Todd Monken. Lance, as I said in the intro, you have continually said that if you were Todd Monken, if you were in his shoes, if you were the head coach, you would be choosing the quarterback that you think gives you the best chance to win in week one. Todd Monken has made his decision in that regard, and he thinks Deshaun Watson gives him the best chance to win week one. How did you feel about his final decision, given what you've sort of seen and compiled and watched at camp over the last few weeks?
Well, I would say this. Everybody has their own opinions. The conspiracy theories either way are truly amazing to me. But I'm going to go on the idea that Todd Monken is 6 years old. And when he went into interview for this job, he said, I make the decisions. And if you don't do that as a head coach, the Browns won't be successful anyway. So I'm going to assume as I'm talking to you that he made the decision. Now, as he makes the decision, for me, it's very simple. He decided that he wants to win week one. And for whatever reason it is, we don't know. Now, everybody has said, and I'm telling you, the amount of people who have reached out to me, we watched every clip, and the reasoning for him to play, we don't know. The things behind the scenes. Now, when people say, well, that's an excuse, it's not. Not in this offense. If you're in a Kevin Stefanski offense, I'm going to make it very clear. You get up the line of scrimmage, you run the play. If you're in a Todd Monken offense, you get up the line of scrimmage, you have to change the run from left to right, right to left. You have to change pass protection. You might have to change the play completely because of the look you got in the matchup you want. It just takes time. It doesn't mean anybody's stupid. The amount of I don't think it's healthy for any of these guys. And I especially don't think it's healthy for Shedeur because I think he's done a really good job of getting better each week. But winning has to be important. And when people say they want to take a look at somebody, I've said this to you since you and I have been friends. There's no way that's how you develop successful football. Now, whether we like the opinion or not, I will say this. If it's Todd Monken's decision, that's okay with me. And I would say the same exact thing if it was Shedeur, right? Because the idea of that the football coach makes the football decisions, that's the most important thing. And for me, you got to win week one. And it might be simply, this guy can get us into the best run game. This guy will, whatever it is, there's something going on, whether we don't know it. Now, what's going on might simply be, hey, this guy's just going to take a little bit more time. You watch every practice like I do. There's been a ton of growth in Shedeur, and he's getting much better. This doesn't mean the end of him. It just means, hey, we want to win week one and then continue to get better. The vitriol and the anger is just absurd to me because I think both guys have done a really nice job.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've seen a lot of growth from Shedeur. I think there was certainly days where I think in terms of throwing the football consistently, like the stuff that fans did get to see, the QB tracker and all that, I do think Shedeur probably won in that aspect because I think he was more consistent, more regularly at practice throwing the football than Deshaun was. Deshaun had a lot of ups and downs, but there was also stretches where Deshaun kind of got it rolling, and you saw why Todd Monken, liked certain aspects of his game. There's certain elements that he can do. Maybe that I think in terms of like the run game stuff, like the running quarterback stuff, that stuff's a little bit more suited for Deshaun than it is for Shedeur. Not that Shedeur can't do it. So I think there's just certain things that he probably favors. And then the behind-the-scenes stuff, the stuff that we don't see, I do think factors into this a little bit here. I want to go back to something you said, though, Lance, because it feels like one of the big conspiracy theories that people are pointing to in this entire thing is, well, Todd is doing this because ownership is making him, or it's coming from above. I know, I kind of know the direction you're going to go on this as well, but like Lance, I have a hard time believing, and listen, I get it. It's the Browns. They haven't earned the benefit of the doubt from a lot of people. They've oftentimes been an organization that makes the wrong decisions or the wrong choices or does do stuff like this that then blows up in their face. So I get why there's skepticism and why this would be a conspiracy theory. But I'm telling you, like, because of what Deshaun said after the game on Saturday, this organization had the easiest out in the world to tell Todd Monken, don't play this guy. Like, if the organization really looked at this thing big picture, they had every reason to be like, don't play this guy. He's not good for tickets. He's not good. Like if that was coming down from them, I would think they would have gone the opposite direction and said, don't play this guy. Play the young guy that is more exciting, has more hope, has more, is a bigger celebrity that doesn't have the baggage that the other guy has. This was the easiest way for the organization to go if they were going to be the ones making the decision. To me, the fact that Deshaun's the starting quarterback of this football team tells me that Todd did have the power to make this decision and that he truly believes Watson gives him the best chance to win. He could end up being wrong. It could not. It might look ugly, like I think some of us are anticipating, and it might not be long-lived that he's out there playing quarterback as the starting quarterback on this team. But I wholeheartedly, I get it. You can blame the Browns for a lot of things and a lot of bad decisions over the years, but I push back on the notion that this is coming from above, and that's why Deshaun's getting it, because it doesn't make sense for this organization to keep trotting out Deshaun Watson when they know how the fans feel. We saw how they feel on Saturday. It wouldn't make sense.
Well, I'll say this. So, somebody said, to me, if he came in and immediately played Shedeur without ever going through this whole process, that's when fans should be mad, because then he's giving in to everything around him. It's not how coaches work.
It's a fair point.
And, and the amount of, I'll go back to what you said earlier. So when people say, if we're going to be brutally honest, Deshaun is coming off two Achilles tendons. Shedeur cannot run like Deshaun. Now, Shedeur has good feet and can escape, but I'm talking +1 run game. I'm talking running counters, running pin and pull, running isolations. Deshaun can do those things better right now after 2 Achilles tears than Shedeur. It doesn't make Shedeur bad, but this is people need to understand what's going on here. And the idea that when you come up to the line of scrimmage and say, well, what does the operation have to do with anything? Well, in this offense, you're going to call a play. If you get out of the huddle with 10 seconds or less, which he thought he did a great job on Saturday, but that means you have to run the play that's been called, and you can't get into a better play. So you're going to have some stagnant offense. Then what people will say is that's a terrible play call. So there's some things that tie into that as well. Then people will say, well, and I had a bunch of people reach out today and say, well, he did a great job. The Buffalo Bills never showed anything but one coverage in the first half. They showed one coverage. So to say he didn't have to change a ton. Now, once again, I hate to do that because he's been awesome. And I've enjoyed watching him practice. And I've enjoyed his leadership, enjoyed the idea of what he could be. And he could still be a steal for a 5th-round pick. But you're at regime 2 that has decided that he needs competition and still not the starter. So there's something going on. But it simply could be he's just a guy who still needs to develop. I don't know. There's a guy named Aaron Rodgers who didn't play for a long time. Turned out to be pretty good. Shedeur could be that. I think he's got a ton of ability. But the idea that he's being sabotaged and he needs to leave the Browns, there's 31 other teams that pass on him a bunch of times. There's 31 other general managers that pass on him a bunch of times. So there's whatever it is, there's some stuff to it. But I think he's done really, really, really well. Yeah. And the bottom line is, what helps me win week 1? That's it.
Yeah, Lance, I think you said the quiet part out loud there, Lance, and I do think that matters. Like, this is the second coach who's telling you that he's just maybe not quite there yet, and that's okay.
Yep,
that is okay. He's a young player developing. Just because he's not the starter right now, today, doesn't mean he can't be a starter in this league. Doesn't mean he can't become something. I've already said a million times on this podcast, I'm anticipating Shedeur is going to play at some point this season. And if it was up to me, I would have gone with Shedeur because I thought he did enough from just a executing the play standpoint and he looked better and he looked more consistent, then I want to see that and I want to learn about him. But I'm also not the head coach of this franchise, and I'm not evaluating these guys on some of the behind the scenes stuff as deeply as they are. And so this is what Todd decided, and this is what it is for now, and we'll see what happens from here. But the notion that this is coming from above or whatever, guys, like the organization had every reason to incentivize Todd to pick Shedeur over Deshaun. They didn't, so that tells me this is a Todd Monken decision. And if that means you think he's a bad coach now, I guess you think he's a bad coach now. We'll get to see what it looks like here when week 1 rolls around. Away from those two guys, because that's been the talk of training camp, there's kind of another competition down the depth chart of this room, because if those two guys are quarterback 1 and quarterback 2, Dillon Gabriel and Taylen Green are kind of fighting for quarterback 3, and I don't know that 4 guys are going to be on this roster, at least not long-term, maybe initially. So we're going to get to see both those guys on Thursday. Let's preview that a little bit, Lance, and see how you're feeling about these two quarterbacks. I know you love Dillon Gabriel, you always have. So we'll get into that coming up next on the Locked On Browns podcast. Before the season kicks off, everyone is making predictions. Who wins the division? Who makes the playoffs? Who's lifting the trophy at the end of the season? On KALSHI, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. Think of it like this. If you've ever traded cattle futures or agricultural futures, if you lived out west and you were doing some of that stuff, I'm jealous. But also, KALSHI is the same concept. It's just you can do that on anything. The ability, and that applies to sports as well. For example, if you're feeling bold and think Cleveland has a chance to win more than 6 games this season, that's trading at around 51%, meaning a $100 trade can get you a $186 payout. On KALSHI, you're trading against peers in a live market, not a house, and as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. Download the KALSHI app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10. KALSHI, KALSHI, trade on anything. You must be 18 or older. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves significant risk and is not suitable for all investors. KALSHI products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends at Square. Behind so many of the local businesses people visit every day is Square, a platform designed to help businesses sell, manage, and grow. Whether it's a neighborhood coffee shop, a packed sports bar on game day, or your favorite restaurant, Square brings payments, banking, and more together in one connected system. Square isn't just a payment processor, it's a complete business platform built to simplify the day-to-day. Some of my favorite spots locally run on Square. We got a pizza shop down the street that we go to. They use Square. A donut shop on the west side that I sometimes go to, depending on what flavors they have that day or that week. They use Square. It's if you're starting a business or running one that deserves better tools, Square helps you sell, manage, and grow without slowing down. Right now, you can get $200 off Square hardware at square.com/go/LockedOnNFL. That's SQUARE.com/GO/LockedOnNFL. Run your business smarter with Square. Get started today. All right, Lance, we've spent over a month now talking about the two guys duking it out for the starting quarterback job, and now Todd Monken's made his decision. Let's talk about the two quarterbacks who are duking it out now for the third string quarterback job. And this is going to be interesting because on Thursday night, Dillon Gabriel is going to start the game under center. That's going to pave way for Taylen Green, who we haven't had a chance to see much of this camp, this preseason just yet. It's going to be a sort of preseason debut, if you will. I guess we'll start with Dillon. What are you kind of expecting from Dillon Gabriel in this on Thursday night against the Patriots?
Well, this is a tough one for me, but once again, if you go back and you've seen my timeline, and you and I have been together since Dillon Gabriel was drafted, I'm a big Dillon Gabriel fan, and I like what he brings to the table. This is a tough one for me because I think Dillon Gabriel is a really good backup, and I think he's a guy that can start in this league in the right system. I'm not sure if the system is right for him, but I've been very impressed, like I have been with the first two guys, along with his progression. And most of the time when he gets to work, now he's working against 3s and 4s, and he's working against simple coverage, but he does a real nice job when he's in. I think he's been fairly sharp all camp. But I think Taylen Green gives you more athletically, and he gives you more physical traits. So, but if you were talking about the quarterback competition between 1 and 2, and that third guy's going to play. For me, I think Dillon Gabriel gives you a better chance to win this year, and that's what I always talk about. What gives me the best chance to win now? But I also think Taylen Green might give you the best chance to win a year from now. So it's a really hard one for me because I think the physical traits of Taylen Green are so enticing, especially Monken, who likes to run, pass, do all those things. I love Dillon Gabriel. You know I do. I love what he brings to the table. I think he can be a key part of a room. And if you're talking about a guy right now, let's say the Browns are in it, and they're in it until they're not in it. I'm not predicting 5-12 because I'm 1-0. And if you're talking, I need to win a game on week 9 this year to get us to 4 or 5-4 or 6-3. Then I'm taking Dillon Gabriel because he's that smart and he's that But if I think highly of my first 2 guys, then I'm going with Taylen Green because of physical traits and what he brings to the table. You and I sat in the stands when he went in there the other day against the Bills, and we were both impressed, right? Had a nice throw to Taylor Wallace, and then he runs one in, and you and I were like, he's cooking, right? So there's a lot to like about his physical skills, and there's a lot to like about Dillon Gabriel, what he brings to the table and that experience. So I think what they think of 1 and 2 will tell you what they think of 3 and 4 when they make their cuts.
It's a really good point. We'll get to what we sort of think the end result will be for this room. But as far as Taylen is concerned, like you broke down his tape during the pre-draft process, what are you sort of anticipating to see maybe different or has improved from the time breaking down his tape then? We obviously haven't got a lot of looks at him during training camp. He's only had a few series. He would do those drills at the end of practice where it was like O-line versus D-line, and he was the quarterback trying to get him to jump off sides and all that. So there were certainly some moments there, but he didn't get to do a ton except for in that Bills joint practice. You finally saw him throw a few balls and get involved. So as you think back to like the raw prospect he was during the pre-draft process, what are the things that you're hoping have improved at least a little bit that you're going to sort of be keeping an eye on with him?
Well, I went back to Boise State. He played at Boise State. He was really, really good. Then he was at Arkansas. He was really, really good. He threw for 10,000 yards in college, so it wasn't like he's just a raw prospect. He's a guy who had a lot of yards and did a lot of things. Now, he's an athlete, and the thing that I think I've been most impressed with, along with Shedeur and along with Dillon, is their pocket awareness and their feet within the pocket. In fact, you can say as a 10-year veteran, I think Deshaun has really improved that. So that's a credit to Monken and his offensive staff. So what you want to see out of him is that he's going to make all the throws. He's going to do some awe-inspiring things with his feet out of structure. What you want to see is, can he do the normal things from the pocket? Can he take a normal 3, 5, 7-step drop and just deliver on time? We know when things break down and he needs to extend the play, he's going to be outstanding because of his athleticism and where he's playing at in the game and against who he's playing against. So what you want to see from him is, again, getting in and out of the huddle. You want to see him making sure the play is called right, and you want to see him be functional from the pocket, because outside the pocket, he's going to be outstanding.
Yeah, it's well said. So, Lance, sitting here today on August 26th as the show airs, what's your best guess as in terms of the 3 guys that will be on this depth chart come Sunday? And again, it's just us kind of having some fun here and making a best guess. We don't know the full picture yet. We got to see how these guys look on Thursday night, obviously, as well. But if you had to sort of sit here today, how are you predicting this room ultimately shakes out?
Well, this is amazing, but I try to keep it to what I see, and I try not to project because, the idea of projection, it then becomes opinionated. So I haven't seen enough of Taylen Green.
You're
so
no
right
fun.
Now,
You're no fun, Lance. You're no fun.
I'm 1-0. I give you the most boring answers you want. But I will say this. So I got to go with Dillon Gabriel, and here's why. Because right now, I don't think the Browns should think about losing, and I don't think the Browns should think about tanking and all those terrible words that make me cringe. So right now, I'm thinking Dillon Gabriel because I'm thinking if they need to get a win and they need somebody they can win with week 8, 9, and 10, Dillon Gabriel's your guy. Now, if they keep Dillon Gabriel, it also, in my opinion, tells you what they think about 1 and 2, and they're not sure about those guys. If they keep Taylen Green, which I wouldn't be shocked either, then it tells you that they're pretty confident in 1 and 2 because then they can develop 3, and that's kind of where I see it. Now, the thing about Taylen Green is I don't think he lasts on the practice squad. He's too big, too fast, too talented. So you have to take into that account, you could lose him. He's a talented. I love talking to him. He's a nice kid. All those kind of things. So this is going to be a tough one. If I had to pick, if I'm Todd Monken, and I'm going to stay true to what I see on film, I'm keeping as much as I love Dillon Gabriel, and I would say that I'm on an island by myself. I would take Taylen Green. I think he's a special talent.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation, and I got to be honest. Like before camp started, I was convinced Dillon Gabriel wasn't going to be here. Then I thought he had a good camp, especially early. I think he sort of faded late, and he wasn't quite as sharp, and it didn't look as clean. And I think he kind of opened that door a little bit. I like the thing. You bring up a great point in that Taylen has some elite traits that I think a team would be enticed to maybe scoop up. If they think their quarterback situation is stable, they might just be like, hey, let's give this Taylen Green guy a try. If you try to get him through waivers, I kind of am asking myself, like, could they sneak Dillon Gabriel through waivers? Like, does anybody want Dillon Gabriel that badly? Maybe Kevin Stefanski would scoop him up and have another lefty in his room, but maybe you're banking on that not happening because he's already got two lefties. I don't know. This is the dilemma I think I'm having going into this. I might change my mind, but I think right now I would lean that they're going to go with Dillon. But if Taylen puts together a solid performance on Thursday night that maybe convinces the Browns, hey, this guy can be a good third option if things go awry, especially and I go back to what you said. The idea that they might feel strongly, hey, we have Deshaun, we have Shedeur, we're okay, and we have those two guys. If you feel like you have, two guys that you think can start, which Todd said he thinks he does, then maybe you're not as worried about who your third string is because you're not thinking you're going to get there necessarily that soon in the season. So I don't know. I at one point in training camp, I thought Dillon was going to be the guy, but now I'm kind of going back to the idea that it might be Taylen Green if he puts together a really strong performance, and they might try to sneak Dillon through waivers. So it's going to be interesting to watch how that sort of unfolds in the coming days for sure.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting kind of thing because I'm with you. Once again though, you have to take, and people hate this when I say it, but they have to take into context because Taylen Green is going to be successful on Thursday. He's also going to probably see a 4-front with no blitzes against 3s and 4s. He's a 6'6" kid who can really run and throw, and he's really, really smart. So he's going to look really good. But who's he playing against? DTR was really, really good, and everybody thought it. So there has to be context taken into this. And Dillon Gabriel has started in this league. He's won games in this league. And if you think if winning is important, then you're not always looking to the future, because if you look to the future too much, you're usually not a part of it. So this is going to be an interesting one, no question. That one could go either way. No, and I wouldn't be shocked either way because of what they both bring.
Yeah, who said third preseason games the backups are playing doesn't have anything to watch? I think this.
They're my favorite.
Yeah, I know you're a sicko like that. I think that like this game's gonna have some intrigue at that position just because of those two kind of duking it out. And yeah, maybe they keep 4 initially, and Barry tries to work his magic like he tends to do in trade one. We'll see, but it's gonna make for an interesting coming days for sure. Shoot, Lance, maybe they keep all 4 and they say Taylen Green, hey, you're going to play tight end for us instead because we don't have any tight ends that we can count on right now, and other than Harold Fannin. I don't know. Like, who knows what's going to happen? So we'll see. Speaking of things we're going to be watching, certainly we'll be paying attention to those quarterbacks, but also there's some positions down the depth chart that are going to be duking it out, trying to earn roster spots, and there might be an interesting one on special teams to pay attention to. Lance and I'll give you some other things we're going to be paying attention to on Thursday. Coming up next in the Locked On Browns podcast. There are more live events than ever worth seeing, and games, concerts, comedy, shows, festivals. The hard part isn't deciding what you want to attend. It's actually getting the tickets. Between long wait times, confusing checkouts, and surprise fees, buying tickets sometimes feels harder than it should. That's why so many fans are turning to Gametime, the app that's built for buying tickets and making the process simple. With upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive savings opportunities, you can get to all the events you want without the hassle. Listen, a couple years ago, I was looking for tickets to an event, and I was so sick of all the other apps out there, all the other sites out there. I stumbled upon Gametime, and I realized it was so easy. I can view what the view for my seats is gonna look like before I buy. The fees are all right there in front of you, so it's transparent as can be. And suddenly, Gametime has become my go-to app for buying tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to every type of event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Final segment here with Lance on a Wednesday. I know we usually have Lance on Tuesdays. We pushed it a little bit this week. There was just so much to react to with the Deshaun decision, and I wanted to use Tuesday to kind of talk through that a little bit more with you. But Lance is here. He gave his thoughts on that. Now, I want to know what Lance, beyond the quarterback position, because we did talk Taylen Green and Dillon Gabriel, is going to be watching most closely in this Thursday night preseason finale that won't include the starters. So maybe what's one of the first things on your mind, Lance, that you're going to be paying attention to in this one?
Well, I'm looking at like Zach Zinner. I'm looking at KT Levinson. I'm looking at inside guys, offensive line guys. I'm looking at that receiver position because special teams needs to have an impact with a rebuilding offense and a defense that's going to be solid. And Wilson was a heck of a returner. So does he kind of throw himself in there? Or is it Malachi Corley? Or, you and I watch a lot of practices. Luke Flory is never not open. And the people are like, oh, I don't know. He's always open. And he runs against everybody. He's always open. So he has a little Julian Edelman into me. So in him for me. So that receiver position down there, Gage Larvidan's always been impressive to me. And Wilson, the returns, and Malachi Corley covering. And then with this Justin Jefferson, I think, Winston Reed has been really good. Nathaniel Watson's really good. Be good. Is Justin Jefferson going to make this team? I think he fits the skill set. So you want to see him have a big day. Trey Avery, I think he's been really good in practice. He has not played very well in games. So I want to see him play really well. And then who's going to be the third tailback? I think Rocket Sanders and Imagn Marshall have been really good at camp, and they bring the kind of the same skill set. Who do they like better there as the third back? So there's some intrigue way beyond quarterback on this roster.
Yeah, the third running back spot is an interesting one without question. And I kind of go back and forth on who I think has the leg up between those two, Imagn Marshall and Raheem Sanders. I think sitting here today, I might lean Raheem Sanders, but I do think it's going to be pretty close there. And I think that's a position that it deserves some attention because you just never know. Running backs take a lot of hits. Somebody could get hurt. You could be seeing one of these guys at some point in the season. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one shakes out. I'll tell you, Lance, we've talked about this, I think, or touched on this at times. Who's that wide receiver 6? Because I think 5 spots are accounted for, right? We know KC, we know Denzel, we know Jerry, we know Isaiah Bond. That's 4. We know, or we think Tylan Wallace is pretty much a lock. He didn't play. He was one of those guys that didn't play in preseason game number 2, so that tells me that he's in pretty good standing to make this roster. And so if they're keeping 6 wide receivers, which is kind of the standard, who's that 6th guy? Luke Floria, aside from KC and Denzel Boston, I think Luke Floria has been the most consistent wide receiver other than those two throughout all of camp. He catches almost everything. So can he crack that roster? Can he be that 6th guy, or is he too limited for that role? So is it going to be Corley? You brought up Cole Wilson. Like that can Ced Tillman make one last sort of stand for the job? He's been back at practice this week. So that's probably one of the most interesting positions that still has to sort of sort itself out down the depth chart is who's going to be maybe that last receiver that makes the roster.
Well, yeah, and you just said it best. So, I was looking for guys, so Malachi Corley returns kicks, and he was covering kicks, and he was a gunner. And, there's certain things you look for in special teams. Now, if they don't keep Corley and they don't keep Wilson, who's your kick returner? And they have to have impact on these kick return teams. I have said it today, and people are like, that doesn't mean anything compared to offense or defense. These special teams are special this year. They have worked on them all camp 3 to 4 times a day during the practice. And it's going to be interesting because I think Malachi Corley and Cole Wilson are the best returners. I think Luke Flory has been the best receiver. So what do they do with it? Is it Casey Concepcion then you put back on? That's one of his touches? Because for me, Casey Concepcion is going to be a guy that you max touches, but you don't want to go past the max. My dad always said, little guy, even in high school, you have little guys that are super shifty, but they can only take so many hits. So is that one of his touches then? Is kick return one of his touches? And now I would usually say no, but they put such an emphasis on kick return this year. Maybe that's a touch they want for Casey Concepcion. Maybe they want this offense to have a short field. Those are all things we don't know. And when people say, what are they talking about? Or it's the idea of it. No, these are real discussions. And for me, if they're thinking more special teams, then it's got to be Corley or Wilson. If they're thinking pure receiver, then it's got to be Luke Floria, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's it's well said. And I'm glad you brought up special teams because this feels like the perfect conversation to end on. There's been days, Lance, where we've been out there at practice and they've been working on punting, and there were just some booming punts out there. Now, Byron Storer, the special teams coordinator, has said that this is Corey Bojorquez's job to lose. But both Wes Paul and Nick Constantino have been booming kicks themselves. I don't know, Lance. It kind of feels like this game could be an important piece of choosing if the Browns are going to have a new punter or a veteran punter in 2026. And I think it's like I feel like this I don't know that Corey Bojorquez has like run away with this thing. I think it's pretty close, and whoever maybe has a good game in this one is maybe going to come away with the starting job, especially when money gets involved. I know you don't like to think about those things, but you're paying Corey, millions versus you're paying these other guys probably just in the hundred thousands. I don't know their exact contract situations off the top of my head, but if that comes into play, maybe you feel like somebody gives you just as good of a chance to boom that ball, and you don't need Corey Bojorquez anymore. So, an under the radar competition, I would say, is the punter situation that the Browns are going to put out there on Thursday night.
Has there been more? The punting situation has been fascinating to me. Now, I always tell people have asked me like over the last 4 or 5 years, like, how do these guys kick in practice and in the joint practice? And we were in Philadelphia together, and we've seen Minnesota here. Extra point field goal kickers never miss in practice in the NFL. They're always like really good. They miss one, maybe doink one, but they're just always amazing. But there has been nothing more impressive than these three punters all camp.
Yeah.
These guys have murdered the football every day, every time they get a rep. So, once again, it comes down to who do you trust? Now, you can say what you want, but, it's not the idea of punting the ball, but if you're in games, you're backed up, it's snowing outside. You can trust Corey Bojorquez, and that comes into the discussion. You're in Pittsburgh, week 13, it's snowing, it's freezing. Corey's going to get the ball off. That's important. Not that the other guys can't. Corey's done it in the game. Yeah. It's just like when people talk about Jerry Jeudy. People can say whatever they want about Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy's been a 1,000-yard receiver in this league. Doesn't mean he'll do it again. He just knows how. Yeah. So it's the same thing with Corey as a punter. But I will say to the other two punters, because a lot of times, there will be a team looking for a punter. Whoever doesn't make this team as a punter, the other two will be punting in this league this year. They have been ridiculous, in my opinion. Just put it out there.
Yeah, they have been really good. I think Cleveland's used to kicker competitions at times. That's not been an issue. Andre Schmidt's been great during camp. If I can say that, I don't want to jinx him and by saying it out loud. But punting competitions are maybe a new one here in Cleveland. And I just looked it up, by the way, while you were talking. Corey Bojorquez is set to make $1.8 million this year. Both Wes Paul and Nick Constantino are making like $800,000. So you can almost save $1 million if you're Andrew Berry in this situation, if you think one of those guys is just as good as Corey Bojorquez. So I know money is not what you care about, Lance, but sometimes that does come into play with these decisions. So we'll see if it does at all. Fun conversation, good stuff, a lot of good stuff to watch on Thursday. And I know Lance and I will certainly be taking it all in with you. Make sure if you like what you heard, you hit that subscribe button. Make Locked On Browns your first listen every day, wherever you get your podcasts, and at the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Don't forget about my friends as well over at Locked On Cavs and Locked On Guardians. Thank you for being every day at the Locked On Podcast Network. For Lance, I'm Spencer German, and I will catch you on Thursday previewing this matchup with the Patriots and getting you set for the preseason finale. Talk to you then.